back at it again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Getting Over versus Being Put Over. I'm your host, and let's get right into it. Let's see, first things first. It has been recommended by a member of our team here that I should consider having a channel designated for the wrestling content, and I might put other stuff on there too, but certainly for the wrestling content. That is something that's kind of being discussed currently. That might end up happening. Don't know when yet, but I'll let you know when, or there'll be a community tab somewhere along the lines that'll let you know where to find it, give you a link to the channel and everything like that. But for now, I'll continue to put the wrestling content where it's at. It will come out on Sundays as it normally does until you know the episode, till the last episode, if you will, and then we'll put that on its own designated channel. So keep an eye out for that. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up. And big ups to the person who recommended that. Actually, it was G Money. He's a member of the GTG Network and Productions team, so he knows who he is. Big ups to him. Second thing is maybe there wasn't anything else. Maybe that was the only real announcement, I guess. Yeah, I guess maybe that was it. Anything else will come back to me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, why are you guys here today? Why are you guys here? Oh, here we go. We're actually here for another recommendation that was made by a member of the audience. We're going to go over Jim Cornette's epic burial of Tim Horner. This was posted on April 17th of 2017. I'll leave the link down in the description. That's what it was. One of you guys had said in one of the last videos, it might have been, who was it? No, I haven't gotten over that one yet. Oh, it might have been the Greg Hart video. That the link that I left down in the description led to the channel, but the video was privated. Well, now the channel's actually gone. It wasn't taken down, at least by YouTube or anything. It's, I guess, whoever it was that runs the channel just took it down for some reason. If anybody knows, the name of the channel is Wrestlers vs. the World. If anybody knows anything about what's going on with that, just let me know and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes or anything, but just let me know if anybody ever hears anything about it. Because the channel's been around for a really, really long time, so for the channel just to come down seems odd. But I guess a small homework assignment for some of you guys. But we're going over the Tim Horner burial by Jim Cornette. Now, how do we start this? Jim has said plenty of times that the boys are their own worst enemy, and this is a great example of that. But before I can actually give you that, I should give you some extra. I should go ahead and maybe lay out the circumstance on who Tim Horner is, and let me just give you guys some insight on who he is. So Tim Horner is an American professional wrestler known for his Lightning Express tag team with Brad Armstrong. This was back in the day. Let's see here. He was trained by the Briscoe brothers. So, you know, he has a decent pedigree. He debuted in 1978. Now, he goes by a couple different names. Tim Horner, Tim Horn. He also was Kendo the Samurai for a while. Star Blazer, White Lightning is also a nickname that's kind of held up. He's known mainly for his time in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but he's had a pretty interesting career. But let's go ahead and pass some of that up, and let me give you guys some of his championships and accomplishments. So, let's see. As it pertains to the Southeastern Championship Wrestling, he was the NWA U.S. Junior Heavyweight Champion. Held the title 5 times. In Georgia Championship Wrestling, he was the NWA... he was the NWA National Tag Team Champion once. In Smoky Mountain Wrestling, he was the SMW Beat the Champ Television Champion 3 times. Tennessee Mountain Wrestling, he was the Tag Team Champion once. And in Universal Wrestling Federation, or UWF, he was also the Tag Team Champion once. So he's had a pretty decent singles as well as tag team career. But in truth, even from all the titles that you've got in accolades, or some of the accolades that I've read out to you, he was never really a main eventer. You know what I mean? At least according to his accomplishments. But he was a good wrestler. I would certainly assume that he was a good worker. Now, with that being said, when you think an opportunity is about to come about, or if you think you have leverage on somebody, you'll usually do anything you can to take that. And you really don't give a shit about who you screw up. And just because he may have been a decent wrestler doesn't mean that he was a decent person. At least, so the rumors go. We're going to go ahead and hear Jim Cornette do what Jim Cornette does best. He's very good at putting people over. You got to love his wrestling insight and his wrestling knowledge. But let's be honest, it's the rants. It's Jim Cornette rants that are fucking amazing. And that's what we're here for today. This will actually be part 1 of 2. Because he has an earlier video, I believe, where he speaks about Tim Horner, and it's something. But it's something. But we'll go over this first, and then just consider this part 1 of part 2. Part 2 will come out at a much later time and date. So, strap in and whatnot. Hopefully you guys are doing well this Sunday, and hopefully we can have a good time with this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Getting Over versus Being Put Over. See you guys in just a second.
You've known me for 20 years now, and you have known that one of my character flaws that people would be surprised, and yes, I'm admitting to a character flaw, but one of my character flaws that people would be surprised about is I try not to be confrontational with people until I'm left with no choice. And another of my flaws is, as Jim Hurd remarked to Jim Ross one time, concerning me and the Midnight Express, I haven't seen such loyalty since Korea.
That is pretty funny. to be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. Let's see, we're here with Jim Cornette's epic burial of Tim Horner. This was published on April 17th of 2017. Should be good. Link will be down in the description for the original. Here we go.
That's true. I will verify what you said is true, though.
All right. So how much time we got in the rest of this drive-through?
We have a little over 20 minutes.
Okay, well, this is an essay question, so keep track of me. If we go long, we go long. But here's the reason why Tim Horner, and I was saving a lot of this for the book, although I've told the story in some detail other places. But here's the reason why Tim Horner was involved in Smoky Mountain Wrestling to begin with. Because after I had met Rick Rubin, and after I had ascertained that he was interested in potentially being involved in backing an old-time wrestling territory because he was as sick and tired as a wrestling fan and fed up with corporate wrestling and the things, the cartoon stuff WWF was doing in the late 80s and 1990, and the fact that WCW, because Flair, and I was told by Cat Collins, who introduced us, that me and Ric Flair were his 2 favorite wrestling personalities, Rubens. And that's the 2 people he wanted to meet when he came to the Atlanta Omni one day in 1989 to the matches when he was in Atlanta for record business. And that's where we met.
The funny thing is, and it's rather interesting, is that a lot of the people who back some of these smaller promotions or even trying to invest in some of the smaller territories are these multi-billionaires who just want to see kind of the tradition of that classic wrestling continue to flourish and keep moving forward. I think it's a rather compelling type of story, even with Dixie Carter's father, really, even though that was a massive fuck up with TNA, and then even with AEW. But not just that. It's funny how maybe, just maybe, if Vince had done things differently, he could have had, some of these individuals would have been more than willing to back him and his promotion. And not to say that they may not, because, investing is investing, but to have people truly committed to a situation, right? Like how Jim Cornette was working out here with Rick Rubin. I think that right there speaks numbers for, and it should have spoken numbers for Vince and the WWE/WWF on, hey, we need to change. Like, I understand you got to do things the way you want to do it. You were able to knock out WCW. You were able to knock out everybody. But now, if we want to prosper and keep moving forward, we need to change. And even if the WWF/WWE needed to be broken up itself into almost like territory type regions, maybe that's what they should have done. I mean, think about that. You have a WWE on the West Coast, on the East Coast, which obviously is where it originally from, in the North, in the South, Southeast. You have a branch out in Puerto Rico. They have a WWE in the UK. Like, they could have branched out throughout the United States into these different divisions, right? Almost mini territories, but still all under the WWE umbrella. And who knows what kind of matches they could have done. They could have done champion versus champion, the North or Northeast champion, if you will, versus the Southwestern champion or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They could have used your imagination. They could have gone as far as they wanted to with it. You know what I'm saying? They could have gone ahead and put a branch out there in Mexico. They could have done a bunch of stuff. If they were they could have getting a foothold back in Canada. They could have done a bunch of stuff if they just would have opened their minds up a little bit and their eyes to the situation. Because now you have all this territory. You run everything now. You have all these wrestlers, and you barely know what to do with any of them. Most of them went ahead and withered away, or they went to Japan, or they went to Mexico, because they weren't getting a shot over here. What's the point of you making? They're probably making decent money, but if you're not on TV, what good are you? You know what I'm saying? Unless you're doing stuff behind the scenes.
We stayed in touch. And simultaneously, I was so miserable working for WCW that when me and the Midnight Express were in the car on the way to matches, other places, I would look to pass the time, if I wasn't driving, at the Rand McNally Road Atlas, which every wrestler carried in their car and still should. I don't see it $9.95 at any truck stop in America. You'll never get lost. And I was just looking at, this used to be a great territory. Boy, they had TV here, and here, and they'd do matches there. And I was looking at all the territories in the United States as we would go to these places. I carried even if we flew somewhere and had a rental car, I still carried a Rand McNally with me so we'd know how to get around. And at the same time, I also noticed that while WCW's business was fucking tanking in the arenas almost everywhere. Every time we would go to Knoxville, Tennessee, there would be a big crowd at the Civic Coliseum, and it was old-time wrestling fans, and they enjoyed the matches much more than most places, and they cheered the baby faces and booed the heels. It was a pleasant experience to go and wrestle in Knoxville for WCW. And I got started looking, and I said, well, fuck. I said, Knoxville, right across the mountains, 140 miles, is Asheville, North Carolina. And then it's right up from Johnson City, where just a few years before we had done a $100,000 house at the Great American Bash 86. And it's right up the road from Chattanooga, that had a great wrestling tradition. And I started visually in my mind putting a territory together. Inexpensive arenas in mid-sized markets, with television stations that had histories of carrying wrestling, that even if you had to pay, might be somewhat inexpensive. Wasn't trying to get on TV in LA or New York or whatever, Chicago, which would just be ludicrous, which is why everybody that tried to do that lost all their fucking money quickly. And that's okay. So all these things started coming together. If I'm going to do a territory and I've got a financial backer, and I see a place where there's still a lot of wrestling fans and they seem willing to come out and even watch this horse shit that WCW has given them, where there'd be 5, 6, 7 substitutions on every fucking card. It seems like Knoxville might be. And because I'm living in Charlotte currently, it would be close for me to come over here and try to set some things up. And also I knew the Sandy Scott, who at WCW had just fucked him, but he had been running Greenville, South Carolina for Crockett for years. Greenville, South Carolina, in 1986, grossed over $700,000 for like 40 wrestling events at the Greenville Memorial Auditorium. And Sandy knew all those promoters, or all those building managers.
And that's why you don't burn your bridges. And not just in wrestling, but in anything. You do not burn your bridges, because who knows where some of these people end up later. And that's an opportunity to get a job, work out, build, you guys kind of come together, reconnect, if you will, and then build further connections and so on and so forth. For as much shit as Jim gets into, right, his name is still good. You know what I mean? His name is still good. Like, most people someone actually tried to make an argument with me about Vince Russo. That, hey, yeah, everybody rags on him and this, that, and the third, but people say good things. That's true, but who's going to let him back in? That's the catch. You do have people who want to stand up for him and say, oh, well, he does deserve a little bit of credit here, or maybe Vinny took a little too much credit here, but, he did his part and so on and so forth. But how many people are willing to let him back in? That's the ticket. Because we saw what he did in WCW. You saw what he did in TNA, as well as other things. Like, there's not too many people willing to let him back in. With Jim Cornette, he can essentially still go anywhere. Even the people who may still have hard feelings would still bring him back because he knows what he's doing and he's good at what he's doing. You can't say that for everybody.
And had been, running events, knew how to check up tickets and etc. And he knew some TV station people up in Roanoke, which wasn't far away. So I knew Sandy was willing to go in on this venture. I'd talked to him about it. So it just seemed like everything was leaning toward we should do something in Knoxville. And then the fateful day came. We're in Gainesville, Georgia, at the Georgia Mountain Center for a WCW TV taping. And I didn't realize that this was summer or fall of 1990. I didn't realize that me and Stan Lane were going to walk out at the end of October. I assumed we were there in WCW through the following April when our contracts would expire, and then we were going to be done. Because we had tried to leave the previous April, and all the agents and fucking everybody, Jim Ross, everybody on the booking committee, they all outvoted Jim Hurd and demanded that he renew me in the Midnight Express. And when Wahoo McDaniel told us about it we walked in the Norfolk Scope one night, and Wahoo said, hey, we had a big meeting in Atlanta and we all overruled Hurd and they've signed you for another year. And me and Stan started throwing our fucking bags down and goddamn it, kicking shit.
That's actually a really funny story. That will probably be in the part 2 of this whenever that gets posted. When where Jim Hurd was basically, he was only negotiating with Jim, but Jim was the manager for the Midnight. So, or is it Midnight or Rock and Roll? It's Midnight. My bad. I hope I have that right. And he was negotiating. Their contracts, and initially they were going to only offer them like $75,000 a piece. And Jim was like, "Nah, they're not going to take that, and I don't think that's right anyway." So Hurd was like, "All right, well, I'll pay you like 125, and I'll pay them 80." Like, he kept raising Jim's money, which is great, right? That's amazing. But it was like pulling teeth to get what he needed for the boys. And eventually, I think what Jim was trying to get them all up to was at about 150,000 for all three, because they are a team, and Jim is incredibly loyal, which would have made fucking sense, given that what was going on, like the going rate in the locker room at that time. It would have been reasonable doing like that. It's not overpaying them or anything, but I think eventually they settled at like 100 and I think the boys got like 125, and I think Jim may have gotten 150,000 a year, something along those lines. But that right there was an interesting story in itself. But it also tells you, or it shows you, how much Jim Hurd actually valued talent. Yeah, he had some big names at the time and so on and so forth, but you have legends right here, who have been around for a long time that are well known and that will draw money. Why wouldn't you pay them? Why wouldn't you pay them at least the minimum going rate as everybody else was getting? You know what I mean? Or most of the guys were getting, I should say. They have the pedigree, they have the accolades, they've held the titles. Like, what was wrong with them? But what are you gonna do? Their previous contracts were ballooned anyway, which is an interesting story in itself as well.
Bobby was just like, oh, what the fuck? Because Bobby didn't get that upset. But we knew we had to take the money because we didn't want to split up. Bobby had a family. We were looking forward to leaving, so we were there, right? So anyway, Gainesville, Georgia. Everybody's miserable. working for WCW at the time. And Tim Horner knew how miserable I was and came over and whispered to me, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I've got a backer in Knoxville. Because he's from Morristown, Tennessee, 30 miles away, right? That was his hometown. I got a backer in Knoxville. He's willing to spend up to $40,000 to start a wrestling.
Ain't shit. And it was Rock and Roll Express. Sorry about that. But $40,000 is nothing for what you're trying to start at all. And Tim's not stupid. He should have known that. But let's let him continue. 40,000 isn't much.
Promotion, and I want to know if you might be interested in working some dates for us and when y'all leave. And now I'm like, oh fuck, because $40,000 wouldn't do 2 good TV tapings, right? You knew that, and I knew that. At the time, I didn't realize that Tim Horner just wanted to run his hometown so he could be a big fucking deal in fucking Morristown, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't going to do that off 40,000. Even if he could draw, he's not gonna. He would need more than just his hometown. He would need obviously the hometowns around, the other towns around him, and shit, even maybe the other states. And he may have not have drawn like that.
Some half-ass mud show, outlaw fucking TV show shot for, however much. And then they were going to fucking put it on the air, and it was going to last 2 months, maybe. And it was going to muddy the water. And if they tried to run shows, that was going to muddy the water. And it was going to piss some people off in Knoxville to the point where when a real promotion came in and wanted to do a territory, not just run a single market and headquarter in Knoxville, that there was going to be bad feelings about local pro wrestling, right? So I'm thinking, what the fuck? I didn't want to let anybody in on this because the only people that knew were me and the Midnight Express, Sandy Scott, and Rick Rubin. But I said, before he does this, and I didn't want him to lose somebody's money, some innocent guy, but I was more concerned with he's going to fuck this up for everybody because, A, Tim Horner couldn't run a fucking wrestling promotion. He couldn't book Lassie in a fucking pet shop. $40,000 was no fucking money, just enough, as my mother used to say, to piss people off. He was going to get a bunch of those other local mud show people involved, like a fucking Terry Landell or whoever else, and it was going to be bad. So I decided to take him over in the corner and spill the beans. And I said, Tim, I will figure you in because you're a hometown boy in Morristown. I never dreamed. Later on, I found out he thought he was actually going to be like the champion and be like the guy, the baby face. Which the problem was Tim Horner couldn't look in the fucking mirror and see what all these, question askers saw. I said, I will figure you in as a local hometown babyface and you can work in the office with me and Sandy because you look great in a suit and you can go and talk to
I'm sorry, but we're talking about the Rock and Roll Express, right? But he keeps saying the Midnight Express. I don't know. I'll say I'm messing that up. But I feel like we're talking about the Rock and Roll Express, but he keeps saying Midnight and I don't want to. I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect here. But anyway, back to it. And more importantly, as I had read off earlier, Tim got like 3 titles while he was with Smoky Mountain. So it wasn't like, Jim didn't give him a chance. You know what I mean? But let's continue. I'm still dwelling on that old Midnight Rock and Roll Express thing.
These people, you live there. You can talk their language. You can try to get us some sponsors. And you'll be on the shows and you'll do a variety of things for us. Don't fucking go through with this because that money ain't going to last. And we've got a lot more bigger plans coming up. And he said, okay. And he couldn't go to New York because of when he had worked there as an underneath guy. He had sued Vince and there was heat there. And, WCW was about to get rid of him if he wasn't going to walk out to begin with because he didn't want to be there and they didn't particularly want him. That's why they were just using him underneath. The only thing I disagree with about the question asker was Tim's work was okay. He was a good, solid, middle card babyface that could do the right things and had some timing and some experience. So he was good for bringing new guys in who were going to be on top like Chris Candido and settling them down and teaching them how to work Southern style or whatever. And no, he couldn't talk. But at the time, if you put a baby face on, on your card and he wasn't getting interviews, then he was nobody. So I had to give him some fucking time on TV to talk. And goddamn, it was not the fucking shining, light of Smoky Mountain Wrestling television. But anyway, he was a local guy that lived there. We could depend on, I thought, and I figured would know his place and would be more concerned with being involved in the office and seeing the promotion get over rather than being the big star, which I found out later was not the case. And then over a period of time, goddamn, the baby faces would fucking call me. Ricky Morton called me one night. Tracy Smothers was going to beat the fuck out of him. He was always making snide comments because nobody wanted to buy his fucking foam lightning bolts. So he'd see the rock and roll making thousands of dollars a night on gimmicks in the big shows and hundreds of dollars a night on the spot shows while he was over there sitting with all his fan club by himself. And he'd say, well, pretty soon the office is going to be taking that gimmick money away from you. And they'd call me up and go, what the fuck? And I'd say no. Or if he was the guy that was supposed to give the finishes on the babyface side, he just had that annoying shit sniffing look on his fucking little goddamn redneck fucking face.
One, I'll tell you, there's nothing fucking better than a Jim Cornette rant. First, the $40,000 deal that Tim Horner supposedly had, that shit may have not even gotten off the ground. If I was, yet again, this is what happens when you look out for the boys. To be honest, I would have just let that. If I was Jim, I would have just let Tim go ahead and do that and watch it just kind of not materialize. I feel like nothing was going to come out of that at all. I think he was overthinking the situation. I think it would be one or two shows. I don't even think it would have lasted a month, and it would have just flopped. I think, or whoever it was that was putting the money up would realize after your first $10,000 is gone, you know what? I don't need to do anything else with this, and then that's it. That's just me, though. I think that's the way I would have personally played it. I feel like, nothing would have materialized with this. I really don't. I feel like it just wouldn't have happened. I mean, I'm not saying it's legit. Shit. It's very possible that 40,000 that Tim was talking about wasn't even 40,000. Let's say it was only 10,000 and he just exaggerated the number by an additional 30 grand. Who's to say? To be honest with you, who's to say? I don't know. I think Jim overthought this. I really do. I really do.
It pissed people off. So I was always having to field phone calls. He's pissing the baby faces off in the locker room, except for Tony Anthony. He was best friends with the Dirty White Boy. So Tony and the Armstrongs, they didn't mind him because they were friends from way back because he was partners with Brad. But every other babyface wanted to fucking kill him. That shameless thing was because at Tennessee Production Center, who was doing our TV, which, by the way, he found that production company, which I had to undergo a ton of fucking goddamn incompetence from them and fucking lackluster performance and et cetera, but we didn't have the money to go with the big production company in Knoxville at the time, of which there was basically two. They also did audio. They did audio music recordings for local bands and artists. And he fancied himself somehow that he could fucking sing. So they did that tape where he did Shameless, and we put it on the air because I thought, well, goddamn, it's better than one of his promos. And it shows that one of our baby faces has talent. And I was just trying to dress the fucking TV show up with some different kind of shit. And believe me, when Rick Rubin saw that episode, he was like, why is Tim Horner singing? Because here's the guy's working with Mick Jagger and fucking Johnny Cash, the biggest music stars in the business. I'm like, well, he was really, it meant a lot to him, Rick. It was a big deal to him. And he said, maybe you could have showed 30 seconds of it. I said, in hindsight, yes, that's what we should have done. But and there was the time where I put him in a program with Tony Anthony, the Dirty White Boy, the Smoky Mountain champion, our top heel, basically to get Tony over, because I knew that I had Tracy Smothers coming in, and that was going to be the money, because Tracy could really get over, and he did. So I put him in a program, and to give Horner an out, as people who have been watching, and I know Mike Mills, the Book in the Territory podcast and Smoky Mountain podcast, he's probably seen this already. To give Horner an out, we did a disputed decision where he kind of won the belt, but really, I can't remember if Tony's foot was on the ropes or something else had happened or whatever. So he had the belt until TV, and then he had to give it back. Bob Armstrong was going to come out and say, hey, as the commissioner, hey, fair is fair, show the tape. You really didn't win, Tim. I know you wouldn't want to take it this way, that type of thing. You know what I'm saying, right? And he'd give the belt back, have to give the belt back to Tony, and then Tony and Ron Wright would crow about it. Well, you know what he did? There was this kid, and I can't remember the young man's name, but he was a special needs kid that was a big fan, and we used to have a lot of the guys go and visit him or give him stuff or make over him. And Tim, because he was local there, and I think he's the one who found him, he knew the kid and his family. And on the TV, it was supposed to be Tim go out there and cut a promo with the belt, but Bob come out, show the tape, and say, I'm sorry, I've got to return this belt to the dirty white boy. Tim had the fucking special needs handicapped kid in his arms, and the kid was holding the fucking belt. And Bob Armstrong, the commissioner, the biggest babyface, the guy who really was going to draw money, had to take the belt not from Tim Horner, but from the little crippled kid in his arms. And Bob,
shit, yo, that's crazy. Think about this, because Tim Horner fucked him over twice theoretically, or he at least tried to. One, he was gonna fuck over his friend, the dirty white boy. He was gonna fuck him over, essentially by trying to shame the commissioner into not taking the belt from him. Then you use this disabled kid as a shield to not just shame the commissioner, but damn near shame the promotion for taking the belt from you, and to try to reaffirm, if you will, his babyface status. And even though that's really just a heel move, to be honest with you, Jesus Christ, that's disgusting. Oh wow, you gotta be a petty piece of shit to pull that off. God damn.
Bob came back, and I thought he was going to beat me up. I've never seen Bob Armstrong so fucking mad. And Bob Armstrong's been mad a few times. And I didn't know this was going to happen. I was watching it as it happened, like everybody else was. I'm like, what the fuck? And he just kept doing shit like that. We put that fucking Horner in charge of starting a wrestling school for extra fucking income for the company. And I think he trained 2 guys. I won't even mention their names and embarrass them now, but he trained 2 guys, and that went nowhere. Horner was in charge of the merchandise. And even though we were doing well with VHS tapes being mailed all across the country for people who couldn't get the show, and T-shirts and stuff at the arena, somehow merchandise just never really took off until I fired Horner's ass and gave it to Hildebrand, and all of a sudden every month he was giving me a nice check. Because he knew what the fuck he was doing, and he was applying himself, and he probably wasn't dipping. And of course, then Horner, he found this girl that used to work at the radio station in Morristown. Said, "Oh, she can sell our sponsorship. She's the sales girl for Fuck You in Morristown radio, right? Okay, how much does she want?" So he got her a job, and you know how many sponsorships she sold, Brian?
I have an idea.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking dick. Nothing. But she was doing stooge work that at least was taking...
Well, first thing is, why did Jim keep him around as long as he did? That's the crazy part. The moment he started shit in the dressing room, get him the fuck up out of there. And then once merchandise went to shit, get him the fuck out of there. That was already strike 2 and 3. Because now him bringing the kid out, you know what I'm saying, the disabled child and all that nonsense, that should have been immediately getting him ripped up the fuck up and out of there. But whatever, that was definitely strike 3. As it pertains to the girl, okay, she used to work for a radio station. Why didn't she tap her radio station contacts to promote the fucking events? Why wasn't that the first thing that was brought up? You know what I mean? Like, she already has an in with the radio station. That right there is a good fucking start.
You know, burden off of me and Sandy, so I was only paying her a couple $100 a week or whatever the fuck it was back then, because that's what she's making at the radio station. Nothing. But then Tim was friends with old Buzz Lacey, old Buzzy, the fucking bank manager at the bank in Morristown. And it seemed that the bank had an office open in the bank building there. We could get for only a couple $100 a month. I said, why do we need an office? She can work from her house. And old Pam was like, well, I just feel like if I have somewhere to get up and go to every week or every day, that I instead of being sitting around the house here, that I'll be more productive. Well, so we rent an office for this fucking girl to sit in and do stooge work that she could have done from her house. I think it was because Horner was fucking her on the side and they wanted a place that I was paying for so he could go and fucking fuck her, is what I think, because nothing else ever productive ever came out of that goddamn building. So finally, then I got Rick Rubin constantly saying, why the fuck is Tim Horner on my television? And I'm trying to say, because he's supposed to be doing.
Too, right, is I think you'll find out it's either in this interview or in the other, or in this shoot interview or the other one, where I think it's in this one actually, where Tim Horner's wife runs up on Jim and just completely comes all out her face on some dumb shit. You could see why Tim Horner probably had someone else on the side, and you could also see why he probably needed a designated spot to. You know what I'm saying? To go ahead and relieve his stress, if you will. If you're not strong enough to stand up for your wife, the least you can do is get a special space for your mistress.
All these things, and he said, well, is he doing any of them? I said, not very well. So then I took him off then I made him Kendo the Samurai, where he could fucking work under a fucking hood just to get Tim Horner off the cards, right? Then finally I said, Tim, because then he was going to have a baby. His wife was pregnant. And his wife, by the way, told him everything to fucking do. One time I said, well, you and Tony, you get some juice and then you make a comeback. And he said, well, Allison doesn't want me to get color. I said, what? His wife didn't want him to do blade. I've got a top baby face supposedly in a Tennessee territory that his wife won't let him bleed. I'm fucking cutting my fucking head, right? And I'm paying this motherfucker, and the backer is complaining about him. He ain't producing shit. And he's a pain in the ass to most of the other baby faces he's in the locker room with, and his wife won't let him get juice. This is all building, right? So then they're going to have a baby. So then I take him off the fucking cards. I say, tell you what, Tim, I'm going to pay you a weekly salary. You don't even have to wrestle. You don't even have to go to these towns. All you got to do is run the merchandise and expand the wrestling school and fucking get some sponsorships. Put a suit on. Go talk to some people. Get us some spot shows. Promote some spot shows. Do all these. Do something, basically, is what I'm giving him the opportunity for, right? And for I bet you, and I'll go through when I go through the records for the books for 3 or 4 months. I pay him like $400 a week at the time to do that shit, to try to get something out of him. Nada, ain't nothing happening. I ain't getting my money back. So finally, they have the baby, and I said, Tim, I'm going to take you off the weekly salary, and I'm going to put you back on the cards, and you're going to get paid per shot, and it's going to be about the same thing. Because we're running 3 times a week at minimum. So some weeks you might make more, but at least you'll be wrestling again because this other stuff ain't working out. I said this will start like at the end of July for 1st of August. So at the end of July, I quit paying him his weekly check and I start putting him on the per night. Well, it worked out that whatever the end of the week was or the end of the month was and the beginning of the next month, at the end of the month is when we ran fewer shows because the goddamn the checks didn't come out till the first of the month, et cetera, et cetera. That's old wrestling rule of thumb. So the first week that he goes back on the per night for wrestling instead of the weekly guarantee, we only had 1 or 2 shows. So no, he made about half his fucking weekly salary I'd been paying him for the previous 3 or 4 months to do fuck all or nothing.
Okay, so weekly he was paying him $300 or $400 a week. Let's go ahead and say 400. So he's basically making about $1,600 a month. And so then he goes back to work on the card. So instead of his $1,600, he's probably going to make about $800. Was that really enough for Tim Horner to fucking survive with him and his wife, or did his wife have a job? Was she working? What's going on? That doesn't seem like a whole lot of money. And since he wasn't productive doing anything else, I don't see a reason why Jim would need to pay him to do anything else. Just put it out there. $1,600 is not per month, is really not a lot. So yeah, something to think about.
And in Morristown, Tennessee, at the East High School, which is the only good thing he ever did for us, he got us to East High School because he was friends with the fucking principal, and we drew some really nice houses there. Guess what happens? His wife, who controls his fucking life and won't let him bleed and tells him what to do with the baby that they've just had in her arms, comes up and yells at me because I actually had gone up to Tim and said, we're short. It's the end of the month. It's a Saturday night. These guys are all going back to Nashville or wherever they fucking live. We're paying them, and you come see me Monday morning, and I will give you your money out of my pocket because that way everybody's taken care of, right? She comes up and yells at me in front of all the boys, saying that I should pay Tim first because he was so important around there, and she's screaming at me while she's holding a baby in her fucking arms in front of the boys. So I went and told Tim, I said, Tim, your wife just yelled at me, and I didn't say what I should have said to her because she's holding a baby in her goddamn arms, but I need to talk to you, and it's going to be on the phone tomorrow, Sunday afternoon. And we're at that point, I tried to go home and cool off, but the more that I thought about it, the hotter I got. So on that Sunday afternoon, when I called him on the phone, I said, Tim, we got an issue. He said, yeah, we sure do. He said, you got me this week on my money. And that was it. I said, no, motherfucker, you've got me the past year and a half on my money. I'm trying to pay you out of my fucking pocket so these other guys can go back to Nashville and have their fucking money or whatever. And you've been riding this gravy train for fucking I don't know how long now, so we can't do this anymore. He said, what do you mean? I said, I mean, you're done. What? You're fucking done. So I fired his ass. Then guess what else happened? I found out that, because he was friends with Buzz Lacey, the major domo of the bank in Morristown, when we had bought a ring truck, he had taken the loan out to buy the ring truck because he said Buzz gave him a great deal. So the ring truck that he found for us, because I admitted I knew nothing about trucks and cars and engines and berthing things like that and such, right? I said, Tim, go out and find us a good quality used fucking moving truck that we can transport this ring in. We'll save a fortune from having to pay all these other fuckers to do this and renting the truck and blah, blah, blah. So he found us a truck for $8,000. We took out the loan to pay for it, and we went through 3 engines. Three engines.
Running a truck. Oh, because Jim was not the only person who's thought that way. There's plenty of people who have tried to actually own a truck themselves and then think, oh, well, the upkeep and everything will be easy or so on and so forth. No. I mean, unless you're actually, savvy around cars and trucks, then no. Just rent one. You know what I'm saying? Set up a deal with whoever it is that rents trucks locally. Just set up a deal with them that, hey, we're guaranteed to rent at least from you guys, 4 times a month. Lowball it. And so on and so forth, and have them cut you this deal. And as they see that you're renting from them more and more, they'll lower the price. Anybody who rents cars a lot, especially if you rent cars through your job or through the corporation that you go through or whatever, same concept. They all have deals with the people they rent cars from and so on and so forth, just because it's easier that way. It's just so much easier. I know it seems you think it'll be cheaper in the long run, but more often than not, it isn't.
A year and a half in that fucking lemon truck that he found for us. And it was still fucking broke down up on blocks somewhere awaiting the 3rd engine when I fired his worthless ass. So, not only had I been taking money from the goddamn Smoky Mountain Wrestling events from our income and giving it to Sandy Scott every month so that Sandy Scott could turn around and give it to Tim to pay the fucking note on the truck and getting a receipt for it. But come to find out, when Sandy went to find out the whereabouts of the broken down truck so that we could and fucking figure out what to do with the truck, found out he stole our truck. He stole the $8,000 lemon truck because he had been paying the fucking loan that he'd taken out in his name, and we just never bothered to check. So we paid for a goddamn truck that was sitting up on blocks and 2 engines, and Tim Horner ended up with it, and whatever the fuck happened to it, I have no idea. Also, when I gave Brian Hildebrand, Mark Curtis, the merchandise fucking concession, I said, go over to Horner's and get all the merchandise and get the fax machine. Because here's another thing. When we first started the business, before we'd even been on TV on day one, I went to the Office Supply in fucking Knoxville. Me and Sandy, and I bought Sandy Scott a fax machine because those things were big in those days. And I bought a fax machine for me because I needed to be faxing stuff to the production company and to different places. And Sandy needed to fax things to the spot show sponsors and contracts to the buildings. And goddamn, Tim found out about it, and Sandy came to me and said, Tim wants to know why he doesn't have a fax machine. We hadn't even started the business yet. I said, what does he need? Well, he's just, his feelings are hurt because we got him and he didn't get one. I said, what
His feelings are hurt because he didn't get a fax machine? Oh my god, that's pathetic. Oh. Did he ever use the damn thing? No? Then what the fuck does anything mean anything about anything? He's mad because we both got one and he didn't. Oh. If I was Jim, I would have said thank you, fuck you, bye on that one. All day. All day. He ain't getting jack shit.
$400 is what they cost then. We got him a fax machine, right? I told Hildebrand, I said, go get the goddamn fax machine because you'll need that for merchandise. Horner kept the fax machine. He gave Hildebrand the merchandise. He wouldn't give him the fax machine. So Tim Horner, if you're listening to me, you fucking redneck, cousin fucking, chicken fucking, hillbilly, goddamn East Tennessee outlaw mud show piece of shit. You stole my goddamn $8,000 ring truck. You stole my $400 fax machine. You stole about 2 years of employment that you didn't deserve, all because I was loyal and trying to keep my word to somebody that I thought was worth a shit, and I found out that I was right. That's exactly what you were worth. Shit. So there's the story on Tim Horner.
I have one follow-up question.
You really do?
At any point, did you ever find out who he was or meet the $40,000 mystery money man?
No.
Told you.
Because
he probably didn't even exist. He probably didn't even exist. I mean, for all we know, Tim Horner may have, for whatever reason, may have heard a snippet of a conversation that, hey, Jim might actually be starting his own territory or whatnot, and he might be trying to figure some people in, or he may have just even heard Jim Cornette's going to start a territory, and he used that as a way to sneak in. You know what I'm saying? For all we know. I'm not saying that was the case. I don't know, but Jesus Christ. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't.
That was probably all bullshit, too, because that was probably Horner being the gullible fucking country hillbilly fuck that he was. Probably listening to somebody that was talking out of both sides of his neck, as Butch Reed would say. And besides the $40,000 he was going to start the wrestling promotion with, we drew that in one night when we got Knoxville going and did the big show like the Night of Legends or Sunday Bloody Sunday or the Super Bowl or whatever. And Tim quickly saw that he was in over his fucking head, because if he was a genius enough to fucking run a successful wrestling promotion with $40,000 in seed money, when he got the chance to get involved with something that was actually financed and on fucking broadcast television, he fell on his ass and shit on himself like a goddamn newborn baby.
We know that a lot of the boys, a lot of the baby faces who were selling gimmicks had issues with him. What was the general mood around the company and in the locker room after you fired Tim Horner?
I don't think Tony Anthony was happy about it, and nobody else missed him, and few people were happy he was fucking gone. I never had anybody after you should have seen the faces when his wife was yelling at me, and she was about, I would say 95 pounds and as big around as my little finger. When she was yelling at me while holding their baby, and I was standing there, and Horner, because his balls are so small, if you took them and you rolled them both at a fucking drinking straw, it looked like you're rolling 2 kernels of corn into a storm drain. He was standing back letting her do that. They knew the jig was up then. They didn't know how quickly and in what manner it would transpire.
Have you ever run into him or seen him again? Has he been at any fan fests or anything?
As a matter of fact, he was at the Charlotte Fan Fest this past year, and I saw Bobby Fulton talking to some fucking fat, out of shape. And this is by 94 is when I fired him. So 22 years later, Bobby Fulton is across the room talking to some fat, out of shape, fucking gray-haired redneck. So okay, that's some fan fucking talking to Bobby Fulton. I go over to say something to Bobby, and he turns around, and there's fucking Horner. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Pah!" And I blew snot and walked away from him. He's not even mad. He's been in the same place a couple of times as I have, but he's not man enough to come up and give me my money that he stole back from me. And I've told people, and then after I fired him, he told people around Morristown, Tennessee, that the reason he wasn't involved in Smoky Mountain Wrestling anymore was because he sold his interest because he was getting out of wrestling. He was getting out of wrestling because
he had bought into the promotion, or he had a piece of the promotion, and that's why he's no longer involved. Of course he would come up with that. Jesus Christ.
Nobody wanted to use his fucking worthless ass.
Actually, now that I think about it, this actually tells me for sure that 40,000 thing probably was bullshit. Because if that was the case, when Jim said, "I'll factor you in, don't waste this guy's money," Tim could have just gone back to the backer and been like, "Hey, why don't you use that 40,000 and see if we can use that to buy in to Smoky Mountain? See if we could buy a piece of the, you know what I'm saying? A piece of the territory." They didn't do that because I would assume that $40,000 backer didn't exist. Unless that was Tim taking out a loan from that same bank that his friend worked at. Outside of that, it probably didn't exist. Oh, wow.
Shit. Because he never owned shit. He was there on a favor job that he couldn't do properly.
Oh, God damn. Ooh, that was brutal. Oh, my God. Amusing, though, but brutal. Absolutely fucking brutal, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let me go ahead and shut that off. Give me a second to square up, and I'll see you guys in just a minute for final thoughts, and then I'll let you guys go. Holy shit. Oh, man. That was fucking amazing. That is fucking amazing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is one story of many stories that you hear about wrestlers or people who are around the wrestling business, usually trying to do favors for the boys or whatever, or for people that they feel like they're cool with. I don't know why it's like that in wrestling, to be honest. I mean, it's like that in most businesses, to be honest with you, or in most fields. But I don't know why is it in wrestling that these guys enjoy fucking each other over the way they do. Like, you can be down and out, ask a friend of a friend for a chance, and the moment you get a little bit of momentum and someone else may have noticed you or whatever, you'll completely forget anything and everything people ever did for you to run over there and get that one shot. It's wild, man. It is fucking wild. And sadly, there's no loyalty in this business, you know? There really isn't. And if it is, it has to be on a more person-to-person basis. more than, okay, well, you know, I've worked with you for a little while and so on and so forth, and you got some talent, so, you know, and that I don't want you to fuck up my future business, so I'll factor you in. If you think about how far Jim bent over backwards for Tim, it's astounding. It's astounding. And the fact that Tim's wife came off on the hook like that, if he's only pulling $1,600 a month and that's your only source of income, I think you waiting a day or so to receive your payment is a very small price to pay than him getting fired and now he's just up and out the job altogether. And the thing is Tim was probably going home feeding to his wife about how important he is to the business and how essential he is and so on and so forth, that it got her head all blown up and led to the shit. And he was probably going home and venting to her as well. And, which led to her going off on the fucking handle like that. Then again, I wonder if she knew that, you know, Tim was allegedly sleeping around on her, how would she have felt then? But what are you gonna do? It's not like wrestlers cheating on their wives or their spouses or girlfriends or whatever is anything new. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening into this. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you guys for the next one. Like I said, there will be a part 2 to this somewhere down the line. Oh my God, somewhere down the line. Jesus Christ. God bless Jim. Like I said, he may be prickly as a porcupine at times, but you can't say that he didn't try to do a solid. And yet again, Jim knows, hey, the boys are their worst enemy, and yet he still, even to this day, he still helps people out. He still tries to get people over. You know what I'm saying? Most people appreciate it. A lot of people don't. It's just kind of the breaks, I suppose. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is Getting Over versus Being Put Over. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Later, people.